Hi everyone, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Mata Di. Welcome to my YouTube channel Merchant Navy Decoded. Today I've got Manish Shrivastava ji with me. So in short, he is my college junior. मैं ऐसे शुरू करूंगा. बहुत ही शांत स्वभाव के हुआ करते थे मनीष जी. But today he is a naval architect who is presently in Netherlands and this video is being made क्योंकि बहुत सारे बच्चे मेरे से क्वेश्चन पूछते रहते कीप आस्किंग मी अबाउट ओशन इंजीनियरिंग अबाउट नेवल आर्किटेक्ट का फ्यूचर क्या है इन इंडिया आउटसाइड हाउ टू स्टडी सो कोर इंजीनियरिंग के बारे में दिस इज सो ऑल दोस पीपल दोज हु वांट टू बिकम इंजीनियर्स दोज हु वांट टू नो मोर अबाउट इट job opportunities in India outside. What is core engineering? What is naval architecture? What is ocean engineering? This video is very important for you. I welcome you, Manish Shrivastava ji. कैसे हैं आप? How are you?
Thank you, sir. Very well. Very thank you for inviting me on your channel. And when I started thinking about your video proposal, I had in mind that, yeah, since I have spent like 10 years after I drifted out of merchant navy, so I thought it is right time to reflect and think about what happened in those 10 years. So I will introduce myself. As sir has told, my name is Manish. I did a bachelor from DMET Jadavpur University, or now Indian Maritime University, Kolkata campus, between 2005 and 2009. I sailed between 2009 to 2013. In 2013, I went to Netherlands to study ocean engineering at TU Delft. And this video, uh, the proposal came from sir about naval architecture, but I thought it would be more opportune if I introduce to everyone with broad ocean engineering, because when I studied at TU Delft, I I saw that people from various different backgrounds, various different branches of engineering attending same classes. So when you talk about ocean engineering, you talk about a broad domain, and when you talk about the naval architecture, you remain stuck to something which has interfaces in many other branches, and also there is many other branches people join the work in ocean engineering, naval architecture. So there is no clear cut line uh, in naval architecture or ocean engineering. Naval architecture remains confined to ships, but even ships are used for multiple purposes, different industries, sub industries, and all that. So I thought I will give a broad view of ocean engineering instead of talking about only naval architecture. So I have made few slides. One disclaimer. Uh, yeah, all the talk I do uh, is not representative of my employers or whatever companies I have been associated with. It is my personal talk. So uh, I have talked about myself. I think this video will be useful for students at universities in India, also for beginning engineers, for senior professionals. I'm not asking everyone to uh, indulge into ocean engineering or do higher study in ocean engineering, but I think they will have a lot to brainstorm and think about. So that is the background. My next slide, it is just a random ocean wave. When we work in ship, we see from the bridge a scene like this. And that time when I sailed, I couldn't make much about it. But to explain this random seas, it takes a lot of mathematics, lot of statistics, lot of differential equations. People spend their 10-year, 20-year entire lives studying the ocean waves, developing the mathematical equations and computer programs. Still, there are too many questions to be resolved and there will be many in the future to come. And how it relates to your shape, how it relates is this mathematics goes into the codes and computer softwares and calculations. And to design a ship, you will use DNV or ABS codes. And those codes come after a lot of research and study. And in those studies and research, these ocean wave and models, these come into picture. So yeah, these waves are what I'm talking about. This is ocean engineering. Everything which floats in this wave, everything which is built beneath these waves, that is all ocean engineering. So that is why I talk about ocean engineering instead of confining it to naval architecture. And also you will see that as the time has progressed, before we just built ships, now we are learning new forms of exploration of the sea. So there are pipelines, there are wind farms, there are solar panels, there are deep sea mining, there are many other activities which are starting in the sea. So using the sea just for shipping is only a small portion. And I guess a lot of you, mostly from India, even within India, I think uh, a lot of job comes from the oil and gas platforms which ONGC have in the Bombay High, and then on the Kakinada Krishna Godavari side. So I think to give a big picture, ocean engineering is more important. Next slide. In the talk, I have four themes to talk about. I will talk about different areas within the ocean engineering so that you have something to grab on, so that you can imagine what is happening, because I think our imagination remains limited in India. So I wanted to broaden your imagination. So I will talk first about different areas, and then I will talk about differences between India and West, as I have seen in Netherlands and other areas where my work was related, in the university and industry, how we work differently, how universities are different. And then I will add something from my own understanding why, I mean, Indians are doing very well everywhere in the world, but why we kind of fail within India, that we are not able to create industries for ourselves. So that will be a point. And in the last, I have kept the most important points for people who are passionate about engineering, especially the students who want to do something more. For them, I have kept the last portion. I will discuss the things which will help you a lot in your future. So I start from the areas, and the first areas is like offshore heavy industry. So in this slide, and offshore heavy industry I have been mostly involved with. So offshore heavy industry has application in, say, oil and gas industry, offshore wind industry, renewable industry. So what is offshore heavy industry about? What I am talking about? So yeah, here you have something to grab on. So here you have a concrete oil platform, oil and gas platform. These support pillars are each around 500 meters high. And this entire structure is 1.2 million ton. So 12 lakh tons of structure that is being pulled by 12 powerful boats from the Stavanger in Norway to the oil field where it will be installed. This photo is from 1996. It is of Troll A platform. And this is one of the huge platforms in the Norwegian Ocean. So you can imagine the kind of uh, engineering it might take is, I think, yeah, you cannot imagine. It is beyond imagination. Only when you get into such projects, you get a understanding of the complexity of these projects. So it is like, it is equal to 12 Panamax container ships that these boats are. That is the weight of this platform, and these 12 ships are pulling. So it's a complex thing. Second slide I have. This is another heavy lift example, heavy offshore industry example. This ship is Voca Vanguard. Boca Vanguard is interesting to me because I studied my master degree at that time. My master thesis was based on operability of this vessel. So until what sea state this vessel can be used for transportation, and uh, not for transportation, but when you start the transportation, you have to load these huge monster structures. So like this tubular shaped structure, it is called spar. It is like a bottle uh, or covered glass. So this spar is almost 50,000 ton. And when this spar is loaded and unloaded, you have to know the weather precisely when you can do it, because there are huge forces. It's like two planets colliding with each other. Not really planets, but I use that word for imagination. So you have to know precisely how much strength you have in the vessel, how much strength you have in the structure, and in the which sea condition you can really load such huge monster structures on the this vessel. So that was a small portion of that question was part of my master thesis, and there are other guys who did PhD on that, and who did master thesis as well. So it is like, I would imagine, say 100,000 hours work to 100,000 hours of work might have gone into all this research about the sea state and when we can offload, when we cannot offload. It's not just about using software, because all the softwares have limit, and when you go into complex engineering, you have to get behind the software into mathematics, into programming, into physics. So that is where the complex things start. It cannot be easily copied because it's not just about using software. For the same vessel, I have one more slide. So this is like Boca Vanguard. And on the deck of Boca Vanguard, you see a super tanker, which is called FPSo, which are used in oil and gas production. And this is being dry docked on the deck of this vessel. And the FPSO has, in the forward side, this yellow structure is called turret. On this turret, they have mooring lines, multiple mooring lines attached, and multiple anchor lines. On this turret, you also have a lot of oil and gas pipelines, lot of electric cables, signaling cables, everything is attached to this cable. So when a FPSO is in production, it cannot be detached for dry docking. So since most of marine engineers talk about dry docking, so I thought this slide would be interesting. So to dry dock such a vessel, it will be useful when you bring in the Boca Vanguard. The Boca Vanguard goes inside the water, and uh, then your tanker is above the Boca Vanguard, and then you deballast the vessel, and you have the dry dock in the sea. So this is the main feature of this vessel. This is how it loads and offloads the vessels, different vessels or whatever. You can carry all the different ships. Like you can fabricate your ship in Korea or Japan or China and bring it to India or US or Europe, anywhere on this vessel. And how it happens is like hull fabrication is more fine tuned and cheaper in, say, China. So basically you build your vessel in China and you bring it to Europe. And in Europe you have like companies which make sophisticated machines in Germany, Netherlands, Norway, everywhere. So you bring the hull to Europe, and then here you fix all the machinery. That is how a lot of things are done in specialized ships and specialized infrastructure. So for that, this kind of vessel is used. This is just one example. I will show you one video. I choose shortest video on YouTube so that you can imagine something how it all works. So here in this video, you see uh, this is from a previous company, which is Dockwise, and Dockwise merged later with different company. So here is the concept. This is the vessel. It sinks below. 16-meter below is the deck. So this is a towing tank test video. On the side it was. These decks are movable so that it can be adjusted to suit the different sizes of the cargo. So now the vessel has started to sink by ballasting it, and it can sink up to 31 meters. And then you have your breezes, everything inside water, only some part is above. And then you are pulling a big vessel on top of it. So the deck of carrier vessel is inside the sea. Now the carrier vessel will be deballasted and everything will come out. And now it will be transported from Korea to Brazil in this case. And now it will be offloaded by sinking the carrier vessel and pulling out the FPSo. Now you have vessel out again, sailing back to Europe for another project. So this is the spar structure, which I was talking about, 50,000 tons, being loaded out on this vessel. So this vessel, the carrier vessel itself has 70 meters of beam, 70, and it has a length of around 300 meters, carrying the spar to Gulf of Mexico from Europe. Now it will be lowered in the field and pulled out. This is a drilling semi-submersible platform on another ship, and both are being carried out on this one. So this was one example of complex engineering which I wanted to show. I hope you found it interesting.
Okay. Manish, I love this part where you could show this thing to us. My question out here is why would we want to take this huge thing from one place to another? Like, is it basically because all the technology lies in the particular country in Europe, and say we have to do the oil exploration in the other continent, so we take through these ships or what?
Mostly it is because the hull fabrication is much more cheaper in China or Korea, and they have big yards, they have manpower, and it has become a specialized industry, and lot of heavy construction is done by, say, Samsung in Korea, or there are other big shipyards in China and Korea. So
And
they have become specialized in fabrication of very heavy structures for offshore industry and other industries. I think most of the ships are also being fabricated only in China and Korea. So for the ships, you have your machineries are more or less similar. But for the offshore industry, for many different industries, you don't have a specialized equipments available in those places.
Understood.
So equipments are fabricated everywhere and you have to bring it to the production area. So suppose if you use a super tanker which will be used in oil field, so you have to get it from the uh, China, and even after China, to suppose you bring Europe for fitting all the machinery, still you have to get it to the field because uh, these vessels don't have propulsion power. That is the main thing. So you have to either you can pull it, which will be very very slow, or you can carry it on a carrier vessel. So pulling is going to be very very slow. If you are pulling such monster structures, then it will take months to bring them to uh, it. You can pull it at say maybe 3 knots. So 3 knot is not a good speed. With these carrier vessels, you get speeds more than 10 knots, and you can reach somewhere within a reasonable time. That is the main thing.
Okay, understood. Thanks. You can continue with the slides.
Yeah, I will continue with the slides. Coming back again to slides, uh, I will now talk a bit about ocean physics, which is one of the areas related to ocean engineering. So there is no fixed line between ocean engineering, ocean physics, all this. Here I have put on the slide a name, Klaus Hasselmann. Klaus Hasselmann is one of the scientists who got Nobel Prize for his work in ocean physics in 2021. So yeah, ocean physics, this is ocean physics in front of you, all the waves and currents and streams. Klaus, he did a lot of work which is used by ocean industry. So like our industry, which works with ships, offshore platforms, and other ocean structures, because the waves in which these structures are leaving, those waves told you before that those waves are complex to describe and all. Klaus described one uh, mathematical equation which tells how the wind energy transfers to the sea, and how the waves generate. And his model is called John Swap model. So John Swap model uh, was created to validate his mathematical derivations and calculations. And John Swap stands for Joint North Sea, something like that. So that was a big name, just to tell you that it is not something, a small field, small industry. It can sometimes feel to you like rocket science. Another next area I will talk to you about dredging. I have some familiarity with dredging because I also did courses in dredging engineering. And dredging is important industry because you think about JNPT in Mumbai, you think about harbors like this waterway is being developed between Haldia and Allahabad in Ganga River. So you need to dredge the Ganga River because Ganga River does not have suitable draft all the year, because all the sand which comes, all the mud which comes, that sits on the river bed. And if you want to operate a ship from Allahabad to Haldia, you need some minimum draft depending on, may say, whatever, say 3 meters of draft, so that you can have passenger vessels and other things. So you need to dredge them. That is one example of dredging. In JNPT, depends on how deep you want in which area of JNPT, what kind of vessel you want to bring in, you need to dredge the channel so that the ship can come in. Dredging remains one of the important works in ocean engineering. Also, not just dredging, uh, I will first show you one of the pictures of a dredger. So this is one old dredger, very old design. And you see that this ship has something connected like a vacuum cleaner, which is being supported at 1, 2, and 3 points. And this vacuum cleaner will suck the mud from the seabed, and that mud, with help of huge pumps, is filled in the big tanks on this vessel, and this vessel will discharge this mud somewhere else and throw out the water. It will come back again here to suck the mud. This is one of the dredger concepts. There are many different concepts. Something related to dredging, interesting. This is Palm Islands. So all this sand has been dredged from somewhere nearby and has been put there to create this island. So this was, I think, a very huge and complex dredging work, but I hope it will make you remember the dredging engineering. Next area, I will talk about coastal engineering. There are other branches like hydraulic engineering. There is no fixed line between coastal engineering, hydraulic engineering. It also has interface with ocean engineering. So like in university, like in Delft University, big universities, you see that students from coastal engineering, dredging engineering, ocean engineering, maritime engineering, everyone sitting in the same class. So there is no definite line between them. So I will show you one example of the coastal engineering or hydraulic engineering. You have in front of you, this is Maas River, and Maas River is the river on which Rotterdam is located, Rotterdam Harbor is located, and it goes all the ways to sea. So when the waves are high in the sea, since most of the areas of Rotterdam and most of the Netherlands is 40% of the Netherlands is below sea level, this the water has to be stopped when there is a storm in the sea. So like Rotterdam, many areas are like 4 meter, 3 meters below the sea level. And this is a huge log gate which they put in the sea when there is a storm to stop the water from entering into this river inward and flooding the city and other places. So this is one of examples of hydraulic engineering. This next slide is Maasvlakte in the Rotterdam. So this is when the this is where the Maas River connects to the sea. This entire harbor has been built by creating breakwater. This breakwater and all this structure has been artificially created. And all this is like coastal engineering, hydraulic engineering. There is dredging engineering because a lot of the channels is dredged and a lot of sand, stone, everything is put there. So all these are related. When you get into ocean engineering, you get to know all these interesting things. I have one more area which is right now very, very important. This is offshore in wind industry. So yeah, in India, we are not likely to see offshore wind in next 10 years, but this is a very important domain in ocean engineering now, because in Europe, there will be 800 fixed offshore wind turbines installed in the sea every year for next few decades to meet the energy requirements and cut the emissions. And a lot of the engineering work these companies in Europe they do in India. So most of the marine engineers might not be aware, But those people who work in shore industry, in core engineering, in companies like Technip, McDermott, Aker Solutions, they know about the importance of the wind industry because, yeah, it creates job, create creating 700, 800 wind turbines every year in the sea requires a lot of transportation, a lot of fabrication, lot of installation related engineering. And each of these turbines, which is next slide, it is like you're talking about a total mass of 5,000 tons, and it is not carried in one part, it is carried in two part or three part. So one turbine and the underwater support structure, it is like 5,000 ton. This is, in this slide you see a fixed wind turbine, and in this slide you see a floating wind turbine. So you have a huge floating structure. The length of this triangle may be something like 100 meters, and you have catenary chains connecting these huge floaters which are inside the sea 70%, so you cannot see. And you have huge mooring lines connecting them to seabed, and these are going to stay in the field for 20, 30 years. So that is the thing. These blades you see, each of them can go up to 100 meters, and each of these wind turbines are for generating 20 megawatt, 25 megawatts. So that is the thing we are seeing. One wind farm with 20, 30, not 20, 30. One wind farm will average have, say, in the case of fixed wind, you will have 60, 70 of these turbines. And one wind farm is able to produce, say, 2 gigawatts of energy, enough for a small city. Next, there are many other areas like subsea engineering. Subsea engineering itself is like a complex, very complex engineering. Again, this is also not much there in India, but a lot of work for subsea engineering is done in India. So, like, I worked in Aker Solutions in Mumbai for 3.5 years, and Aker Solutions has another office in Pune. And Pune office is specialized in subsea engineering. They have their like 600 people working on it. So it's a complex engineering. In the picture in front of you, you see on the top side the platforms, you see the floating production vessels here on the right side. On the left side, you see pipeline vessel. Actually, this is not a real image. You cannot see anything below the sea. It has been created by software because inside everything is dark. It works with cameras and sophisticated machines. But to explain, so this is a fixed platform in the center, floating production platform on the right side, connected with lot of pipelines and jumpers and lot of equipments on the seabed, lot of high power pumps, lot of electrical machineries, lot of heating and cooling, all those kind of things, lot of sensors, everything. So all this is called subsea engineering. And then there will be huge pipelines. Those pipelines have to be buried inside the sea to protect them from, say, anchors or fishing trawlers and all that. Everything is subsea engineering. And also the pipeline engineering is also subsea engineering because it has become a specialized area within the subsea engineering. Those pipelines, uh, they can go up to, you can have pipelines in 3 kilometers water depth and something like that. Pipelines is used in many areas of the world as an alternative of the tanker. So like you get the oil from the Gulf in India through the tanker. But in many areas, instead of tankers, they use pipelines where they know that the pipeline will be more efficient and more economical. They use the pipelines like in North Sea and many other places. Even in the India, in Gujarat, I think there have been pipeline projects and the pipelines running beneath the sea for oil and gas transport. So this is one of the areas. Next, I'm going to talk about there are many other areas like renewable energy is coming in big way in most Western countries to cut the emissions. So they are moving from oil and gas to renewable. Inland waterways is important industry in Europe because a lot of rivers have ships running, container offloading ships, which like you get the containers in Rotterdam from the big container ship, and then many small container ships take it to Germany, Austria, France, and different countries from that big container. So inland waterways is important in Europe. I think the after Prime Minister Modi, he also started some activity for inland waterways. Nitin Gadkari and all they were talking about it, but I'm not familiar with the recent updates on that. Fishing remains a big industry. Fishing, like in the countries like Norway and many other countries, they have huge fish cages, and those fish cages and fish farming in the sea are not just ordinary fishing with the small boats. It requires a lot of engineering. Then deep sea mining is a recent flourishing area, like many different areas of world. They have started to explore the expensive material from the seabed, and to make it economical, a lot of companies like Allseas are now coming into picture.
Well, it was really nice to know these things, Abhi tak, yeah. So my first question is, uh, we have got floating turbines and we have got
Yes,
fixed turbines.
yes.
Why do we need floating turbines? Like for repairing and all, you can take them to shore, or is it easy to place them at different locations?
Yeah, fixed and floating, whether it is oil and gas or offshore wind energy or offshore oil and gas energy, depends on water depth. So like fixed wind farms are normally done below 100 meters water depth. So when water depth is too huge, the cost of the structure becomes high, and also it becomes more and more difficult to maintain the structure. So it is when you go to something like 300 meters, 400 meters, it is better to have a floating structure which only requires a mooring. You don't have a very big structure going down to the seabed.
Understood. My
So
next question is, my next question is that we were talking about these subsea pipelines, oil pipelines fitted from one place to another. So I guess these pipelines are economical, but they are only fitted when you know there is a long-term plan between this A country A to country B, because the cost
yes,
is too much.
yes, that is important. Only when there is long-term plan. So sometimes it doesn't work as well. Like there was one pipeline project from the uh, northern part of Russia to Germany, and that pipeline was built. It was probably commissioned, and now it is not being used or
Because of the
probably
war.
decommissioned because of the war. But before they had planned, because Europe needed energy and Russia had energy, so it was kind of a long term understanding that this pipeline will be used. And same way, that was in Baltic Sea. And there are other such huge projects in Black Sea and other parts of the world. So yeah, it is when you have long term plan, often pipeline works very good as well. It depends on the area, and yeah, project study is done before you decide you want to use tanker or you want to use pipeline. That
And
is another area.
okay, we
Yes.
can continue with the slides. Thank you.
So now I will come to traditional naval architecture. Yeah, it is not in very good shape in India, I would say, because a lot of work now we are working in globalized industry, and fabrication of ships has mostly shifted to China. So I think China builds like 40% of the ships in the world, and a lot has shifted to the Korea. And in the competitive market, I don't see much scope in India in next 10 years, but there is market because a lot of local market is there. So suppose you need some pontoons for a project, so you don't want to go to China because you have to transport them again to India. So a lot of local industry remains there inside India. And biggest provider of work, I would say, is Indian Navy, because India economy is growing 7% every year, and Indian Navy is growing. And I think the BJP government has huge plans for Modi ji says about next 1,000 years. So Indian Navy is going to keep expanding. They will have much more coming, and those naval vessels like we saw aircraft carrier being built in Cochin shipyard. Those India will prefer to have in-house because you don't want to depend on other countries, and you don't want other countries to know a lot of classified information. So naval shipbuilding is going to get a boost in India, and I think that will also create jobs for private companies which are stakeholders in those projects in some way. Also, I think Make in India may change the things in the coming future. So there will be work in India. And again, I would say that naval architecture is like core domain. So it is going to stay here. It will always stay here because it is the main science of the ocean engineering, naval architecture. That is the main science of the industry. Uh, most of us are from marine background, and I see that my friends in marine background, they are not able to understand the industry in broad frame. They don't really see what all things happen. But I would see that naval architecture is the main area, not the marine engineering for the long term. And suppose anything like this naval shipbuilding for the industry, naval industry, ocean industry, it will be naval architect background people who will be leading all this growth. If shipbuilding has to come in India, it will be led by people from naval architect background. So it is relevant. And most of the naval architecture private is now not done for cargo ships because cargo ships are built in China. It is for the offshore projects that we get most of the naval architectural work. So like for offshore, you need to modify the barges or vessels to suit the project. So that is also naval architecture. Every time you modify a vessel, you have to check the stability again. You have to check the strength if the hull modification is there. So it has moved out from the traditional cargo to offshore oil and gas and other areas, the naval architecture. So that is the picture that marine engineers, they are only dealing with the cargo vessels. They don't see it much. And I will talk about countries and universities now, which are relevant for traditional naval architecture and ocean industry. Before that, I will have some questions.
So, Manish, my first question to you is that I understand that as a naval architect in India, you do not have much jobs because only defense and little bit on offshore, or maybe more on offshore. Only these projects are working in India, not the shipyard thing. Uh, Maybe something very subjective. I was at a conference in Mumbai as well. Their Cochin shipyard was talking about a lot of ships being defense ships being built over there. But we take a lot of time in building ships. First thing. Second thing is why are merchant navy ships not being built over here? Any insight from your end? Because if this thing can be done, we can be the seafaring hub, and the industry can grow like anything, and naval architects can have a lot of job over here rather than going to Japan and Korea, if I'm right.
Yeah. So I think your main question is why shipbuilding is slow and why cargo shipbuilding is not there in India. I think it comes down to economics, because I have worked 1 year in a ship design company in Mumbai, and I know that in India it takes roughly 3 times money to build a ship compared to China. It will differ from vessel to vessel to specific cases, but that is the situation now. So you can't compete with China, where everything has been standardized. You need a lot of different industries to come in. Like suppose when you are building a, say, a bulk carrier, you need heavy lifting cranes to assemble together the different parts of the vessel, because you will build a vessel into 3 4 big blocks, and those blocks have to be assembled, so you need to lift them, you need to put them together. Then you need machineries. So if you have, like, around the Bombay, you have like fabricators which cast the valves, which can supply you the pipelines. India is a steel hub, so you get good quality steel in India. I think better than China. Quality of steel wise, you have big companies, Tata and Jindal, all that. So I think we have a steel technology, but there are a lot of other technology, like you need machineries, you need cranes, and you need a lot of things which are needed for uh, industry.
Basically, the infrastructure is missing. And now, if we try to build the infrastructure by that time, China, we will be miles ahead. They already are. So that is
I
why
think
maybe
it
we are.
is about everything can be done in India, but it will take time, and who is going to wait? And right now, say, as I said, that if there is difference of 3 times, then who is going to put that money? Because even in India, it is people, those who are in the shipping, giving their vessels to ONGC for contract and all. I think they find it cheaper to buy a used vessel from Europe, or get a new fabricated in China in 1 year, 1.5 years, than doing it in India somewhere.
Okay. Okay, my next question to you is, even though you have made the slide, but you know it, we can just discuss. Which are the
Yes.
top colleges that you recommend for a naval architecture? Naval architecture.
Yeah, so to that I am coming. Yeah, I will talk about the top colleges and top places for the industry and all. So first I will talk about the job scene. In Dubai, you have a lot of people from naval architectural background getting job, because Dubai is dry docking hub. Dubai also has UAE and all the Gulf countries nearby, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. I think they have good amount of fabrication over there, and that industry is quite booming in the Middle East, as I can sense. So in Middle East, you have jobs for the naval architects. In Singapore, there is fabrication industry, there is naval architecture. So Singapore is also good for Indians. I don't know about the visa scenarios in Singapore, but it is a hub. In Dubai, you don't have visa problem in Middle East, and I think it is a good place to start the career and work there. Also, if you move out of the Dubai and Middle East, then you have a lot of industry in Houston in United States, in Louisiana in United States, and then you have a lot of industry in Netherlands, Norway.
Okay. So, sorry, cutting you in between. So, these are the facilities. Nowhere you have mentioned jobs for a naval architect in India. So, if you're looking for job, your options as a naval architect, and you're looking for doing, so I think so. You will have to spread your wings outside the country. Having said that,
I
let's
think
talk about the colleges.
I think there are job opportunities in India because India has naval architects, but India doesn't have good naval architects. So if you are very passionate about the subject, then there is place for you. India needs good naval architects,
But people
and
need
you
money
can
also.
join.
People need money also. What about the salary
Yeah, I
prospect
will
in
come
India?
to salary,
Okay, sorry.
and yeah, the Indian Navy needs naval architects, people who are passionate about naval architecture. There is this Mazgaon dock in Mumbai. They do a lot of work, and I think Indian Navy is going to need passionate people even in the future. Coming back to the salary part, I think if you work in private industry in India, it will take you 10 years before you get a salary which people get in merchant navy after becoming fourth engineer or third officer. So you have to work hard for 10 years, and only if you are passionate then you can stay happy.
So you
Only
mean
if
to
you
say,
like
what
the
is the
work.
starting salary in India? Say you have done from a
In
good college,
India, starting salary would be less. I would say 30,000 rupees.
and then in 10 years you might come up to 2 lakh rupees a month, something like that.
If you
Like,
work for 10 years, you will come to 2 lakhs. Yes,
in India. And what about
in
outside
India.
India?
Outside India, it depends on the country. If you get job, then you can start from. I can only tell about Netherlands. So you can start in Netherlands, uh, say around $3,500. In Norway, maybe from $5,000. But it is not about. It's not so easy that you just study in the university and you get a job. There are a lot of things involved. If you are born in Europe, then it is very easy. If you are not born in Europe, then it is not that easy. That
So
is a word
the
of
salary
caution.
part is, so staying in Norway, which is an expensive country, starting at this salary, having invested in a college out there, it is not an easy task. And then you just, so
Yes,
either you have to be really passionate that तुम्हें engineering
yes,
पसंद है, मैं यही करना
yes,
चाहता हूँ. Am I right?
yes. That is the case. Like I did my master's in 2015, and I was jobless for like 1 year after master degree. In CV, you can find like 1 year gap in my career at different stages, adding all different time slots after master degree. So it takes a time. I have worked like 8 years after doing master degree, but initial journey was not smooth. Initially it takes time, and when I did masters in 2015, the oil and gas industry crashed, and the oil price went to like something like $23 or $29 per barrel, and a lot of people lost their jobs in the market, and I had to come back to India. I had the option of joining merchant navy again, but I somehow stayed in the industry because the starting part is the most important part. You have to stick there. If you go back to sailing again, then uh, it will be a bit hard for you to join back again. So starting job, even if it is paying less, even if you work in a small company, you keep building on it. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, within 5 years, everything is
How many?
resolved.
When
So that is,
finance, I meant the salary part, how much you're earning. The earnings will also go up if you go into a latest product, the latest project.
i will I will not reveal the exact figures, but yeah, with my experience, my yearly earnings are similar to a chief engineer.
Okay. But again, staying, I do not, but staying in a country which has got a higher cost of living, and staying in India and getting the salary that we get over here, the savings are less, considerably less, or, but in, see, when I see myself as a chief engineer, I see, but my growth will become constant after a certain time. So no comparisons out there. As a naval architect, if whatever your salaries today is compared to the, as a chief engineer, what you get, but with comparatively experiences that you'll gain, your salaries will increase.
Yeah.
But as
So yeah, salaries. I think I don't have to think about the money. I think I like the market here. I know there is a lot of opportunity. I also don't know how much figure I will get and all, but I don't really bother about it. I know that I will get enough to uh, live well. That's all I know.
Good life. And when you're passionate about engineering, that's what matters. So, can you tell us about some good colleges in India for becoming a naval architect? And can you tell us about best colleges in the entire world where you can go for becoming a naval architect?
Yeah, so inside India, you have IIT Kharagpur for naval architecture. You have IIT Madras for ocean engineering. Uh, It doesn't matter. You can do at naval architecture at IIT Kharagpur and join industry, or you can do ocean engineering at IIT Madras and join industry. It depends a lot what courses you do and what are your interests. So I have no judgments. Outside India, you have TU Delft in Netherlands,
Can
which
you please
is
share that screen so that people can see the exact names and they do
yeah.
not get
I will
confused?
share my
They
screen.
should not
Yes.
get confused with the names. Sometimes I am also not going to get the right names.
Yeah. So I was talking about traditional naval architecture. Inside India, you have IIT Kharagpur and IIT Madras. Outside India, I have, as I said before, TU Delft and TU Delft in Netherlands, NTNU in Norway, Texas A&M in Texas. So these three universities, I think I would recommend to everyone.
Great. So let's go further with the slides.
Yeah. Next, I want to talk about a typical engineering. I thought I would talk about a typical engineering, but then I think I will just show a slide and I will put little bit of light on engineering complexities. So here you have a spar platform. On that, this top side, which is like a factory, has to be put. And you see here a crane vessel, which is a semi-submersible uh, with a heavy crane. This crane might have uh, 7,000 tons capacity. This is a dual crane, so total of 14,000 tons capacity. This with this crane, they are going to put this factory on top of this spar platform, cylindrical shape. So here you can see a lot of things are happening. This weight is hanging from the crane, and so you need to know accurately what will be the dynamics. You cannot lift it a seventh if this is a 10,000 ton weights. You cannot lift it 10,000 tons without accurate calculations, without knowing everything in advance, without simulating it. So that is the thing. Then you need to know about the motions when you have lifted this top side structure. It will move in the sea, and you have to know what should be the relative motion between this yellow spar and this factory when you are going to install it. It should not hit and damage the top side. Then you have dynamic positioning there. I am not familiar if this semi-submersible is being put in station by dynamic positioning or not, but most likely it will have dynamic positioning, and you need to maintain a certain distance. It should not happen that weather goes bad and you hit this spar during the operation.
Wow.
You have to be ever ready to move out. So a lot of engineering comes here. All these structures has to be concept designed at concept level. Then their fabrication engineering has to be uh, analyzed, then it has to be fabricated, then it has to be lifted from the harbor, it has to be transported on the big barges. So all this is like complex engineering. I could easily imagine like this project might cost you something like $100,000 to install one this spar and one this top side. This is what this company
This is
Saipem or
huge. So I've
any
never
other
seen a
company.
photograph like this. I've never seen a photograph like could never imagine that something like this is actually happening. Great. So what's next?
Yeah. So next, I wanted to continue. Who should go for these streams? Actually, in the West, I see everybody goes to everything if they like it. So anyone who is interested can do the ocean engineering. And when you do the study, then you yourself find out what you want to do and what you like and not. So you cannot learn that in detail from watching one video. It is like, if you are interested, you go to university, you do the degree, you become familiar. But in West, anybody joins, like people who have done aerospace engineering, people who have done physics, people who have done structural engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, hydraulic engineering. Anyone who is interested, they join here. So there is no such a mental block like in among marine engineers community, among the people who sail in the ships as the officer. There is mental block in India. If you are mariner and you go to shore, you ask for a job, and they will look at your degree and experience, and they will say, we don't want you, you are not needed here. But that
Yeah,
is kind of a mental block in West that is not there for local people, at least. On the another side, I have seen that marine engineers themselves are also very much hesitant to learn anything, or they don't think that they can fit in different industry.
right,
But on shore, I have seen that people from every branch fitting into marine industry in Europe. Then why cannot we fit in other industry? So I think it is mostly a mental block. If you are willing to learn, then you can join it. My next slide. Yeah. So relevance of the education, we were talking about ocean engineering, universities, market. Now you want to focus on the relevance. It is the core engineering, ocean engineering, naval architecture. If you want to grow high in this industry, you cannot just grow with skills of marine engineer. I'm not talking about degree, I'm talking about skills. So at some point you need to, if you have like naval architectural background, you are more likely to go top in industry. If you are marine engineer, you have a specific segments where you will do good, but overall in industry, it is the naval architects who will call the shots. They are much more likely to plan and decide and develop the solutions and go upstairs. So it has anything you do, whether it is renewable energy, whether it is offshore wind, whether it is oil and gas, whether it is offshore solar, whether it is pipe lay, all these industries you are going to need ocean engineering. So that is like foundation core. Then it opens your mind. I have seen like a lot of people, they don't understand what exists outside what they have seen. They don't understand what they are talking. I have seen people in senior level in marine industry, they cannot imagine what is the outside world, what all things can happen, what is engineering, that they cannot understand or imagine. So once you study, you get to know the basics. Also, it opens the market. Like yes, if you do a degree from IIT or outside, it is like, it is your face. You have you have made it easier for the employers to recognize you, and you can think and try about lot of different, you can fine tune about different jobs, different markets which exists within the ocean industry. So as I said, ship management is only like maybe 5% of the industry or even less. So yeah, it opens a big market for you, especially like a lot of my friends who want to come to shore and they want to know what they can do. They talk like, if they can do 1 year degree, can they get job? I think it is not straightforward. You cannot get job always with 1 year degrees. Many will get, many will not get. I would advise any serious person to do a 2 years master degree, spend 2 3 years in university, and then come out with degree and look into market what interests you. Because when the time has passed, your initial struggle has passed, you will regret if you made wrong decisions early. So it's much better to hang on and choose the right industry, right job, because your first job will create a cascading effect. You cannot go and start as an intern always. When you grow up, it will be hard for you. You will not feel easy to communicate with youngsters, and people will also be less likely to hire you. So if you do it in early stage ocean engineering, 2 years master, take even 3 years, doesn't matter, because in Netherlands, most of the local people, they take 3 years 4 years to complete the studies. Instead of hurrying up to getting a piece of degree, they focus more on what they like, they focus more on understanding. So I know a lot of my friends in Europe who took like 3 years to complete their masters, but doesn't matter, because in those 3 years they did internship, they did a lot of different study, they fine tuned their interest. Yeah, Indians have financial problem because they cannot survive 3 years in university. But that should not be mindset that going to university just for getting degree, in long term it is going to pinch you. Then I would say it is like many marine engineers, I have seen people taking extra first class. Maybe within industry, within ship management industry, it has utility, but extra first class doesn't add anything knowledge wise. I have seen their syllabus, there is nothing much which you did not study. Engineering wise, there is nothing which you did not study in DMET, in bachelor. So extra first class doesn't add. It is you are only going to repeat it. You are only going to repeat different things. You are not going to add. Also, if you like do naval architecture or ocean engineering, if you join the classification society, you will be able to move out of, like if you have marine background, you cannot work on new build projects meaningfully because you don't understand the basics, new build of ships. I think you are more fit for uh, this annual survey and the dry docking surveys of the vessel, but not really for new build or other approval, all that. So if you do 2 years naval architecture from IIT, I think you are much more useful for classification society. And if for the lifetime, you can do a lot more things than you can do just with your marine engineering experience. I think it becomes like repetition, like you are not able to differentiate between repetition and the process. You are not learning a different process or different knowledge if you are just doing same things. You are repeating. You
Fine.
are busy but nothing more. You get salary, you are busy, but I think, yeah, sometimes it can pinch.
मनीष,
uh,
थोड़ा फास्ट रखेंगे यार, क्योंकि
हाँ,
1.25 घंटा ऑलरेडी हो चुका है तो।
हाँ, इसको कट भी करेंगे ना। अच्छा ठीक है, इसको यहाँ से चालू करूँ।
हाँ हाँ, करो करो करो।
Okay. I think now I can talk about why I personally went for higher study. I think it was a personal decision for me because I think I am emotional and passionate person, and for me, ocean industry suited much better than just being a marine engineer. So that was the thing, and it is like I like to contest everything. So I like to contest ideas. I like to know more. I'm curious, and that in my case, I felt like I cannot be there in merchant navy long term without being unhappy, because my mind wanders a bit. I like to know about what all things are happening. I cannot be limited to a small zone which is not very deep, neither very broad. So that was the main thing. And
Okay.
then some personal circumstances pushed me out early. So yeah, that was how it happened. Uh, I would also like to talk about pros of the merchant navy, because in next few slides I am going to talk things which will hurt or punch people initially. So first I will talk with the good things. I think merchant navy is adding very hugely to India GDP. I think India has like 200,000 sailors uh, on different ranks. So it boosts India's economy. It is good for economy, yeah. And then if you are in like ship management business, then I think uh, most of the DMET people are doing very good in ship management. They are everywhere. You have connections. You can easily climb in that industry because of the connections and experience and knowledge. If you quit merchant navy, it will not be easy for first 5 years because you don't know the people. I had the same problem. I did not know people in industry. I had nobody to approach to. So if you quit the industry, it is going, it can be good time if you find your way, but it can also be very tough time. So it is much easier to grow up in management and get to higher positions in ship management. Then I will talk about third thing, like most of the people in solar industry, they also are stuck to something narrow, something very limited, and which they keep repeating. So it is not that shore is like green grass. A lot of people, I worked on shore in Mumbai, and they thought that merchant navy is better industry. They like the money, they like the profession. So it is not like grass is greener. But I will say that the shore people, they have much. If you study in IIT, MTech in naval architecture, or if you study in uh, NIT, you do structural engineering. SOAR people have much bigger spectrum. So the average person in SOAR industry and average person in merchant marine industry, they are not very different in quality of their skills. But the peak is very different because in SOAR you learn many skills which may allow you to go very high, and which we did not learn because our study at DMET was very much practical. So that is the difference. If you are passionate, then I would say that you uh, then only I would say that you should leave the merchant navy, because money wise it will be very bad experience for at least 5 years. So that was the pros of the merchant navy. So this is end of my today's my part. I would ask if you want to know more, if you have to say anything.
Manish, the session was fabulous. I had no knowledge about naval architecture. The only thing that I know was कि naval architects के लिए India में ज़्यादा opportunities नहीं है. But this is all I knew. Now let me see when this video goes, how many people have got the questions out there they can ask, and maybe then I'll take your further help to find out the right answers. With this, all I can say is thank you, Manish, for your time. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us from Netherlands and sharing your views with us. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.